I'm Desiatov, and this is our shoot at Pleasant Creek. Today's team for our shoot here at Pleasant Creek is Darmenia, who of course is doing our video behind the scenes, our background stuff. Our model is Blaise, who's done a fantastic job. I've worked with her on a previous occasion. Wonderful model, fantastic personality. On hair and makeup is the incredibly talented Simone Clarke. She does amazing work. And our designer, who I've worked quite a number of times, and I love his garments, is Errick Kimm. He really knows how to make some really fine couture garments, and we'll be showcasing his stuff today. We're shooting at Pleasant Creek, which is an amazing building, a bunch of buildings that have been abandoned for some 60, 70 years now. Originally it was a hospital, and it got decommissioned, I think, back in the 30s, and no one's pretty much looked after it. And recently a gentleman's bought it. It's turning into a haunted house, ghost tour type thing, and also converting some of the rooms into hospitality and also function centres. The owner of Pleasant Creek's a fantastic gentleman by the name of Kimm. He's been very accommodating to us today, basically left us to do whatever we want. It's been absolutely fantastic. He gave us a great tour of the venue, let us know where we can or can't go. In fact, there wasn't any place that we couldn't go. It was absolutely brilliant. And as he was showing us through the venue, there were skulls and decapitated heads and bodies and all sorts of creepy things throughout the whole place. Because that's his theme. He's going for the haunted house type thing, ghost tours. And apparently it is supposed to be haunted. We haven't seen any ghosts yet, but I swear Blaise has probably been on edge all day because of it. She's very scared of ghosts. And it's been a wonderful experience just having a look where we're allowed to shoot. We're about to start our shoot, and some of the equipment that I'll be using today is the Godox system, the Godox QT600 in particular. Now normally I use them in my studio for my fashion work, but when I take them on location I also use the Godox LP800X inverter. It's a battery pack and it's absolutely fantastic and I love using. It gives me the ability to actually do lots of shots quite quickly if I need to, without having to worry about refresh rates or anything like that. Take your time. Yeah. That's it. Yeah, I love it. Ah, yes, please. Good. Get those legs together. Now straighten up here now. Yeah. in the middle again. Perfect, perfect. Good shit. Just got to balance it off a bit better. Yeah, actually we will for sure. I think we need to maybe have one thing we're doing is large stress. Love it. Twist around towards me, yeah. Gorgeous. Step forward a bit.
People here.
Maybe it's because I'm like hospital room, so they
Twisty right more. That's great, I love it. That's good, that's good, that's good. Right, good, good. Looking up, that's it, yeah. Yeah, that's it. Looking up, head up, yeah, that's it. Good. Thanks so much for sticking around to the end of the video for this tutorial, and I'm going to take you through how I created this particular image from the video. So let's start with the tutorial. I'll close up the finished product here first, head over to Adobe Bridge where we can then open up the original raw file, and as you can see the original file was underexposed, so a couple of things we need to fix up. Head over to this lens correction icon. We can first click on remove chromatic aberration and also the enable profile correctors, and this automatically selects what camera I'm using and what type of lens I was using. In this particular case it was the Pentax 645Z and the 55mm f2.8 lens, prime lens that I was using. Then head over to the sharpening, which is a detail icon there with the little two pyramids, and I'll adjust that to 60. Then head over to the basic adjustments. One of the things I do here with the white balance, I set it to auto, and then head over to exposure because we are way underexposed, so let's bring that up a bit, and we're heading up to almost 2 stops there, maybe slightly under there, and we can then adjust these to our taste. I want to get rid of some of those highlights as well, clean those up. Now what I normally do is slide from one side to the other just to give me an idea of which direction I should go. And our blacks.
Yeah, that looks good. Okay, now open image and bring it into Photoshop. Okay, there's a few things I want to clean up in this particular image. Things like this cable, I want to get rid of that, and I'm going to clean up some of these spots around the area just to keep the focus on our particular model, who happens to be Blaise. And we're going to do that with this spot healing tool, which is on the left hand side, spot healing brush tool. And we can zoom in by using the Alt and the wheel mouse and zoom straight in, and just stamping down, it'll automatically calculate and fix up the spots as we go along. Now I've cleaned up that image just a bit. What I do is using Control J, I'll duplicate that layer. You can either Control J it or just drag and drop it into this little duplication layer there, and that'll give you the top layer there. I will rename that to base, just so I can keep track of it. And from now on, what I basically do is I don't touch this background layer. That's my base layer, so if I ever need to refer back to it, it's there. Okay, so some of the things I want to do in this particular image is clean up the fabric, and of course we'll do some frequency separation on the skin, clean up the skin and all these horrible creases in the dress. We'll fix all that up, smooth it out, and add a bit of a vignette to it, and basically beautify the whole image and the location. Okay, so first thing I need to do is for the frequency separation is create some new layers. Make sure the base layer is clicked, Control J once again, and we duplicate that twice. That bottom layer there I'll call low pass. The above layer is high pass, and then go to our adjustment layer, click on that, head over to curves, and we turn down the curves, the middle section there, to darken the whole image. Then click on our mask, Control I to invert it, and we'll call our layer burn. Let's do that process again to our adjustment layer, curves. This time we'll go the opposite way, move that up a touch there, and Control I to invert that as well, and we'll call that our dodge layer. Okay, so we need to create our low pass, which is basically our tonal range. So let's unclick the high pass so we can see what's happening on the low pass. Make sure that's highlighted. Go into image. Oh, sorry. Let's zoom in so we can actually see what we're doing. Go to filter, blur, Gaussian blur, and bring that down so we can, smooth out the skin, but kind of still see some detail in the eyes. In this particular image, it's about 7.4 pixels. It will vary depending what your resolution of your image is. We've got our low pass, which is our tonal range. Let's go to our textures, which is the high pass layer. Make sure that's clicked. Head over to image, apply image, and select the layer that's called low pass. You've got to make sure that's set on subtract and your scale is 2 and 128. Now, if you're using 16-bit, make sure that is changed to add. In 8-bit, which is what I work in, it's subtract. So click OK. Head over to our opacity and change that to linear light. So now we have our two different layers, and we can start cleaning up the skin. Using our clone stamp tool, we can then zoom right in and start removing some of the blemishes in her skin. Sampling an area just next to it, we can then go in and start evening out her blemishes. Now, I won't get into too much detail because I do have another video regarding frequency separation. I'll link that into the description below. That's our smoothing of the skin and the fabric. Part of this technique is actually destroys some of the tonal depth because it smooths everything out. So we need to bring that back in using our burn and dodge tool. And because our mask is black, we need to use a white brush. So make sure our brush is highlighted there. It's our white palette there. And we can zoom in and start slowly bringing it in. We adjust the flow back to 100%. Make sure the opacity of the brush is at 30%, and we can gradually bring it all in again. With the skin, if you have any issues trying to figure out where the shadows go, you can go back to the original base image that we saved. So if we zoom in, we then click on the base there with the Alt key, and we can see where our original shadows were. And by referencing that, we can go in and out and adjust it. Okay, that's our skin just about done. So what I want to do is actually, I've just noticed the eyeliner or rather eyeshadow, is there's a bit of green in it. So let's add a bit more oomph to that. So just above the high pass layer, head over to adjustment layer again, go to color balance, and we'll just punch up the greens, just a touch like that. Close that, Control I to invert that. I'll just relabel that green so I know what's going on. And because it's masked out, black, we need to move our brush to a white. Adjust the brush size, and we can then bring in a bit more green to our eyes. There we go. It's probably a bit heavy, so instead of trying to remove it with the black brush, let's just adjust the opacity on that. So we've punched it up a bit. Okay. Now, what I want to do is add a vignette, and let's click just above the dodge layer over to our new layer menu there. Call that vignette. Now going to our fill tool, our bucket tool rather, make sure that's set on black, and stamp right in the middle there. Now I'll probably adjust that to roughly about 30, around that, maybe a bit more. Click on our mask icon down here. Because that's white, we need to go over to our brush tool, make sure that's black. Set that at 100% the opacity, and I'm just going to mask out Blaise completely to start off with. So she's totally exposed, like so, and you can see the changes we're making to the mask layer there. Then now I'm going to adjust that to 30%, around that, and then we're going to kind of blend it in to a slightly odd shape, just to add a bit more interest to it rather than a complete circle. Okay, so there's our vignette. And let's have a bit of a play. And we're just about there. What I want to do is actually add a bit of a color grade to this now. I mean, it's looking pretty good now, but what I'll do is head over to our layers here. Click on the top layer there, sorry, the color balance layer, and click on base, holding the shift key down, which highlights the whole lot. Control J to duplicate it. Right click and merge layers, and call that base. Now, one of the ways I like to create a color grade is if I head over to my filter menu, go to exposure software and exposure X5, and that gives me a huge amount of different type of color grades, different types of films that I can use. And in this particular case, I'm using a Polaroid, and I like this faded one here there. And you can click and basically choose whatever you wish that suits your taste, but I'm going to go for this faded. Pretty straightforward there. I don't need to make any adjustments on this particular image. Hit apply, and that brings it into our image. Now it's into Photoshop. What I'm going to do is actually adjust this particular layer with the opacity. I'm going to change that to about 30%, I guess, 40%. So there's a hint of color to it. But what I'm also going to do is create a mask, and then I'm going to actually mask out her skin. So let's head in. That's white, it's black, our little color palette with the brush set at 100%. Let's shrink it down, and if we click the backslash button, it brings up a mask, and we can then zoom in and start masking out our skin tones. Right, I've masked out the skin tones, so it exposes the layer below it. And if you see it, clicking between the two, you can see that the skin is appearing from this particular layer that hasn't been color graded. But it then gives me the ability to actually adjust how much of the color grade I want in the skin. So if I just double click on that particular layer, the mask layer, I can then adjust the density, and as you can see the changes, I can have the full amount of color grade to it or none at all. So usually I go about 50%, somewhere around there, and then I can play with the overall exposure of it, how much I want, and pretty happy with that. That's our complete image. So if we go to the original image back here, you can see it's very quick, it's effective, and it's pretty dramatic. Hope you enjoyed that little tutorial. Don't forget to subscribe, hit the bell for notifications.